Now that the UFO phenomenon has become mainstream, we're hearing a lot of misinformation and disinformation on the subject. I'm going to share with you a collection of UFO sightings from the 1500s, long before drones and the US military ever existed. 1501, Central Italy. A Florentine physician named Antonio Benevini, who lived from 1443 to 1502, was interested in monsters from the pathological point of view, and mentions a wonder that took place between Urbino and Gubbio in 1501, quote, "A horrible appearance in the stormy sky that caused many abortions," and Professor Carlo Pedritti, specialist of Leonardo da Vinci studies at the University of California, has stated, "This is what we call today the appearance of a UFO. Interesting. Something appeared in the sky that caused many abortions, according to this physician." September 29th, 1504. This one talks about a man who went into his garden and was suddenly surrounded by a light, a bright light he's never seen before, and heard a voice calling him by name. At the same time, he felt like he was lifted from the ground and found himself carried away to a distant land. He was thrown into a trance, and an apparition that he took to be Mary told him to make the public fact that she wanted a temple dedicated to her, and it was completed in 1513, consecrated 1528. A priest named Simon Casabau wrote in 1601 about the adventure of Molady. March 19th, 1509. This story involves a man who was driving his cart across a shallow river when his cart got stuck in between some rocks. He got out of his cart and started praying, asking the Lord for help. And right at that moment, he noticed a blinding light coming from the east, accompanied by 12 figures. They approached him in a ball of light and then vanished. And as soon as they vanished, he realized that his cart was free and not stuck in the rocks. 1513, Rome, Italy. A flying triangle was spotted. The famous sculptor Michelangelo observed a triangular light with 3 tails of different colors. He painted a picture of it, but unfortunately that picture was lost to history. But according to a Benedictine chronicler, Michelangelo saw a, quote, triangular sign one calm night. It resembled a star with 3 tails, one silvery, the second one red, and the third one fiery and bifurcated. November 8th, 1517. Romania. According to a 17th century chronicler, quote, great blue sign shining like the face of a man appeared in the sky. After some time without moving, it, quote, hid itself in the sky again. April 1518. Yucatan, Mexico. A Spanish conquistador wrote this, quote, "On this day in the evening we witnessed a big miracle, and it was that there appeared a star above the ship after sunset, and it moved away, emitting rays of light continuously until it was above a town or a large village, and it left a trace in the air and lasted for 3 long hours." This next one is from 1520 in Hereford, England. Quote, "In 1520 AD in England, at Hereford, a colossal beam of fire was seen in the sky. Approaching the earth, it burned many things with its heat. After this, it ascended into the sky again, and was seen to change its shape into a circle." 1521, Spain. This one involves contact with an alien being. A doctor was in contact with an alien being named Ezekiel. Not Ezekiel, just Ezekiel. It was a being who taught him many secrets and flew him to Rome. The doctor received much fame by virtue of his newfound knowledge and medicines, that even Cervantes mentioned him in Don Quixote. Quote, "Remember the true story of Dr. Turalba," says Quixote, "who was taken by the devils through the air and in 12 hours arrived in Rome," end quote. In 1525, he became the personal doctor of the widowed Queen of Portugal. Despite this fact, in 1528, the doctor was arrested and tortured by the Catholic Church, claiming that he entered a pact with devils, and he was sentenced to prison on March 6, 1531. 1523, China. Quote, "One day when it was raining without stopping, a teacher observed 2 ships sailing over the woolly clouds above the ruins in front of his house. One of these two ships measured more than 15 fathoms, over 60 feet. Two tall men were busying themselves, each one over 12 feet tall and wearing a red hat and multicolored clothes. 12 feet tall. Giants. In the home of the teacher that day, there happened to be a score of scholars who, alerted by the teacher, came out of the house and stood next to him and observed the phenomenon together. Then, the men in multicolored clothing passed their hand over the scholars' mouths. Their mouths at once became black, and as a result, none of them could speak. A long time after this, the ships flew away, as if carried by the clouds, and descended again in a cemetery. The ships set off again. The scholars felt their mouths return to normal, but 5 days later, the teacher died, and nobody knows why. 1526, Rome, Italy. An Italian inquisitor wrote that a countryman in Rome saw his wife take all of her clothes off and go out of the house. The next morning, he asked his wife where she had been all night. At first, she refused to tell him, but when he started to become more aggressive, she told him she went to a witch gathering. He demanded that she take him with her next time. And not long after this, they were both transported by 2 goat men. However, she warned her husband not to pronounce the word God during this time with the demons, to which he agreed. The man saw many famous people at the meeting, all of whom declared their devotion to the devil in a ceremony. There was a dance and a banquet. The man noticed that the food on the table lacked salt. He asked for salt, and when he thought he had it in his hand, he exclaimed, "Thank God the salt has come." Suddenly, everything disappeared before his eyes. Men, women, tables and dishes evaporated, and everything went dark. He found himself naked in the countryside on a cold night. At dawn, he met some shepherds who informed him he was near Benevento, some 100 miles away from Rome. They gave him something to eat and clothes to wear. Eventually, he found his way home, begging for money on the way. When he finally reached Rome, starving and exhausted, the first thing he did was report to his wife, who was forced to confess and promptly burnt at the stake. February 1st, 1554, France. Sighting by Nostradamus himself. Dr. Nostradamus and 1,000 other witnesses had seen a big, bright, burning rod that changed its flight path between 7 and 8 p.m. It was in the sky for 2 hours, displaying a swinging motion. Quote, according to reports received on the first day of February of this year, 1554, a most terrifying and horrible sight was seen towards the evening. Apparently, between 7 and 8, which I am told it was seen as far as Marseille. Then it also was seen nearby at St. Chamas by the sea, such that near the moon a great fire did come from the east and make its way towards the west. This fire, being very great, did by all accounts look like a great burning staff or torch. It gave out from itself a wondrous brightness, and flames did spurt out like a glowing iron being worked on by a smith. And such fire did sparkle greatly, glowing aloft like silver, over an immense distance like Jacob's road in the sky. It raced overhead very fast like an arrow, with a great roaring and crackling thunderous din, and as though it were being blown hither and thither by a mighty wind. Then slowly, over the course of 20 minutes, it turned, until we saw it passing over the region. Then it turned south, high over the sea, and the fiery steam that it created retained its fiery color for a long time. It cast fiery sparks all around it, like rain falling from heaven. This sight was much more terrifying than human tongue could say or describe. What I just read to you was only the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds more where this came from, but I think we're just going to end it here. I want to thank you all for watching the video, and until next time, God bless you all.